we're probably going to stay dry. I'm dry as a desert, baby, and I don't want it to change.
I'm Emily Carver, and today we're diving into an utterly bizarre phenomenon that's causing quite a stir across the pond following Donald Trump's recent election victory. By now, you'll know that many liberal American women are absolutely devastated by Trump's presidential win, panicking over losing their rights. They are afraid and they blame Trump and the men who voted for him. So now they're taking their revenge. And it's a movement that's rapidly gaining traction. It goes by the intriguing name 4B. Now you might be wondering what on earth 4B stands for. Well, buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey from South Korea to the United States, exploring a radical feminist movement that's found new life in the wake of Trump's return to the White House. The origins of 4B. While some of these women may see their trend as something new, the 4B movement isn't actually an American invention at all. It originated in South Korea about 6 years ago as a response to what many South Korean women perceived as a deeply entrenched patriarchal and misogynistic culture. Now, the 4B in the movement's name refers to 4 self-imposed restrictions, each beginning with the letter B in Korean. Number 1, no dating men. Number 2, no sexual relationships with men. 3, no marriage to men. 4, no childbirth. Now, these 4 Bs represent a radical rejection of all of the traditional societal expectations placed on women. In South Korea, the movement emerged as a response to a range of issues, including the gender pay gap, workplace discrimination, and a culture of objectification and unrealistic beauty standards for women. It's important to note, too, that the 4B movement in South Korea isn't just about personal choices. It's a form of political protest against a system that many women feel is fundamentally unfair. By rejecting traditional roles and expectations, women are trying to make a powerful statement about their place in society and also their right to self-determination. Trump's victory and the American 4B resurgence. Right, it's time to shift our focus to how this movement has suddenly gained traction in the United States of America. Since that re-election of Donald Trump, some women, mostly online, are now threatening to punish men for voting for Trump. This despite 46% of women voting for Trump as well. They're taking inspiration from this Korean feminist movement and vowing to withhold sex from men in order to punish them. Now, we've got some TikTok clips that really capture the mood of this trend. Let's watch the first one.
All I have to say is good luck getting laid. Especially in Florida, because me and my girlies are participating in the 4B movement. That's my next plan, and I'm dead fucking serious.
Me and my girlies are participating in the 4B movement. She always makes it sound fun, but actually they're just withholding sex from men, which presumably they might find enjoyable from time to time. Let's take a look at another clip.
I want the men in this country to know that half the female population, we're dry. We're probably going to stay dry. I'm dry as a desert, baby, and I don't want it to change. Yeah, we're not going to like you anymore. You understand that? Like, it doesn't matter if you take away abortion. Like, we'll want to have your babies even less, right? Even if you take away contraception, like, women are really good at celibacy because you guys are actually a threat to us. So we have a lot less to gain from you. So yeah, 4B all the way.
Right, okay, 4B all the way. Women are really good at celibacy. Okay. Right, okay, totally unnatural, one might say, but there you go, it's her prerogative. Now, this final clip addresses some of the criticisms of the 4B movement. The creator argues that it's not actually about hating men, it's about protesting the political system that they believe does not adequately protect their rights.
I also have decided that for the next 4 years, I am going to abstain from schmex with men. Yeah, as a woman, my bodily autonomy matters, and this is my way to exercise sovereignty over that. So I highly encourage any other women that are single and care about progressing women's rights and still fighting for our bodily autonomy to do the same. Delete your dating apps. I think we can look to South Korea and the 4B movement as a point of inspiration.
She doesn't look too happy about it, does she, though? She looks very distraught indeed. I mean, I do wonder whether she could just find a Democrat voting man, but perhaps that's impossible now because all men voted Trump except they didn't. The rationale behind the movement. Clearly, for many of these women, the 4B movement is centred around the right to an abortion and also concerns legitimate about reproductive rights. So, to protest, they're using their bodies as a form of political statement. So, they believe that by choosing to abstain from relationships with men altogether, they can fight back against Trump and his male supporters. But it's not just about reproductive rights. Many supporters of the 4B movement in America cite a range of issues. Similarly to South Korea, they include concerns about the gender pay gap, workplace discrimination, frustration with traditional gender roles and expectations, fears about the erosion of LGBTQ+ rights, and worries about what they perceive as misogynistic rhetoric in politics. Now, it is worth noting that while the 4B movement in South Korea was primarily focused on societal, cultural issues, its American incarnation seems to be more directly tied to political concerns, and those political concerns are Trump and the evil people, men who voted for him. Reactions and responses. Now, as you might expect, the movement has elicited quite a range of responses and reactions, as some have mocked what they're calling an ultra-feminist movement. They argue it's a complete overreaction to Trump's victory and that it won't have any real impact on policy or social change. Others have pointed out what they see as some inconsistencies in the logic behind the movement. Critics argue that by refusing to engage with men entirely, these women are actually cutting themselves off from potential allies and limiting their ability to effect change anyway. Some point out that by using their bodies as a form of protest, they're actually playing into sexist tropes that it's only men who enjoy sex and that women's only weapon is their sex. Also, presumably, they'll be missing out on what many find to be an enjoyable part of life, and as I said before, they don't seem all that happy about it. Supporters would argue that it's a powerful form of protest, though, that forces society to confront issues of gender inequality face on. They see it as a way of reclaiming autonomy over their bodies and lives in a political climate that they feel threatens their rights. What do you think? The broader implications. Right, let's take a step back and consider what all this means in a broader context. Now, the 4B movement, whether it's in its original South Korean form or this new American Trump incarnation, is fundamentally about power dynamics between men and women. In South Korea, it was a response to deeply ingrained cultural norms that many women felt were oppressive. In America, it's clearly being wielded or attempted to be wielded as some kind of political tool, a form of protest against an election result that these women simply find unacceptable. Again, even though many women voted for it. But is it effective as a tool? Will withholding intimacy and companionship actually change anyone's political views? Or is it more likely to further entrench the very divisions that these women are apparently protesting against? Or indeed, will it force the genders even further apart? Well, it's certainly succeeded in gaining these women attention, but are they only convincing their own echo chamber? Will Trump supporters suddenly reach out and say they regret their choice and that they'll always vote Democrat instead forevermore? Or is this all just really an exercise in trying to get as many clicks as possible on social media in our increasingly narcissistic online world? You might wonder whether the whole thing will alienate more people than it brings on side. For one thing, it's given a lot of people a lot of laughs. It's also worth considering the potential long-term consequences of the 4B lifestyle, certainly a personal choice, but some experts have raised concerns about the potential psychological impacts of completely cutting oneself off from romantic relationships and indeed the possibility of having children. Why would you harm yourself to punish someone else? Global perspectives. Now, the social media trend has been reported on around the world. Clips have been seen by millions of people around the world as well, and everyone's been giving their opinion on this one. It's also a story of how ideas can travel and evolve, in this case from South Korea to the United States. Of course, it's not the first time we've seen feminist movements cross borders, but the speed and scale of 4B's adoption in America is particularly striking. Looking ahead. Right, well, I think it's clear this is an issue that defies easy categorization. It's a vivid illustration of how personal choices can become political statements, how global movements can be adapted and repurposed in new contexts, and it also shows just how hard hit some of these liberal women have been by this recent election result. Whether you see it as a principled stand or perhaps a misguided overreaction, there's no denying it sparked yet another conversation about gender, politics, personal autonomy, and it may well continue for some time. What a world we live in 2024. Now, as always, we at GB News will be keeping a close eye on how this story develops. Will the 4B movement gain more mainstream traction? Will Brits join in with the trend? Or will it remain a niche phenomenon for a few distraught young women? Only time will tell. But one thing's for certain, it's forcing us all to think deeply about the intersection of personal choices and political realities in our modern world. Is it forcing you to think about that all with fresh new eyes? I'm Emily Carver, and don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel for more in-depth analysis of the stories that are shaping our world. Until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and keep engaging with the big issues of our day.